So today I am attempting to do a Maximalist style base game and starter home build, or not really a build, more of a speed decorate. I'm working on the Daisy Hovel lot. I'm thinking that this might be the beginning of a save file, possibly, all done in the Maximalist style. For the most part with these kinds of builds, I don't like to change the actual structure of the existing Maxis builds. Building isn't exactly what I enjoy. I much prefer decorating, so for this particular one, I haven't changed any of the actual structure except for adding on the little side patio. This house has always bothered me, only having one door, especially considering how large the yard is. So I did that second door, but that was about it. Everything else has stayed the same, all of the walls. I also lowered it a bit near the end. Another reason I've decided to work on this save file is I use a lot of custom content. I use so much that I don't think I actually know what's in the game anymore, if I ever did. I've always used a lot of custom content in Sims 4, so I'd like to actually learn what is in the game. Like, there are some of these doors that I'm trying out that I don't think I've ever used. Generally, I sort by custom content and I only use CC, so I'd really like to learn what is actually in the game. Sometimes I watch other people build and I'm surprised by what actually exists in the game. Oh my goodness, that window. I want to figure out how to use it. I ended up not using it at all in this build. One day I'll figure out how to use that weird little window. The color theme I ended up going with for this was kind of teals and greens, a tiny bit of blue as well. That seemed to be a color that was really easy to find in a lot of different item swatches for the base game. And honestly, I wanted to make this as easy as possible because I knew that it was not going to be easy with the Maximalist style in mind. Honestly, I feel like it ended up being closer to eclectic than a true Maximalist build, but this tile in the bathroom is a perfect example of something I had no idea existed in the game, let alone in the base game. I love this tile. Oh my goodness. And it comes in 3 different shades of basically blue. Great stuff. Yeah, there's the darker one. I love this tile. I will be using it a lot from now on. I also love that I can have the same thing on the walls as on the floor. Gives you a very in the water oceany vibe. Oh my goodness, these curtains. The base game, cheap starter curtains. Oh, they're awful. They're absolutely terrible. They're like, are they even worth it to put on your windows? I'm not sure if they look better without or with, honestly. That's still up in the air. I added this little wall just for functionality. I like to have these in my builds, or when I'm playing anyway. It makes it so that you can have a sim taking a shower and one using the restroom at the same time. You know how they don't like to do that? But if you have a tiny house like this, it's incredibly annoying. So usually if you put up a little divider wall like that, they'll get over it and move on. Oh, these counters. I knew that the counter situation was not going to be great, and it was in fact not great. In the kitchen, I really had to use other items besides the counter to counteract how awful the counters were. Really, I mean, Sims team, can we have some decent base game counters? Do they all have to be this just horrendous? I wasn't willing to spend a lot of money in here. I really was trying to save as much money as I could because I knew the decorations were going to be very difficult. Obviously, you can have different kinds of maximalist styles. Personally, I like the overly decorated style, which was pretty much not possible to begin with doing a base game starter home. But I wanted to try, and so I needed as much funds as I possibly could to get to that point. Generally, Maximalism also likes to use different textures, different patterns, and so I did try to incorporate as many different patterns as I could. Texture is kind of weird in The Sims 4 to represent, so I did keep the hardwood floors. I thought about using a carpet, but carpets are just not very well represented in The Sims 4. They just look like really odd hardwood flooring, so I just ended up not going with that. But texture in general was something that I tried to incorporate into this as much as I could. Again, it kind of turned out more eclectic than anything else. That particular rug is really nice, though, for bringing in some different texture. I do adore this fireplace and this sofa that I'm about to put in. That yellow, great decision. Honestly, that wallpaper to the left, that's what gave a lot of the inspiration for that. Thank you to that wallpaper. There did end up being a fairly decent number of items that I could use for decoration that weren't exorbitantly expensive. The economy of The Sims 4 is just absolutely insane, but oh my gosh, those curtains really just make me so sad. What are those curtains? Genuinely, is it better to have them there or not? Oh, you could see a second ago, yeah, the curtain that is on the door. I'm not sure why I thought that was a window at first. It does end up getting removed. Another thing about this house that is just so irritating is that on either side of that kitchen, there is just this wasted hallway space, which maybe in real life you could do something with, but in The Sims, it's just literally a wasted hallway space. Okay, obviously there's been a bit of a fast forward here. I did not want to record all of the debug shopping that I did, if you can call it that. I obviously was going to be relying pretty heavily on debug, considering that we were going for a starter home. It just makes things easier. I also want to know what's in debug, especially for the base game. I know there's some really good stuff with different expansion packs, but I really had no idea what was in it for the base game. The answer is not a ton, honestly, not a ton, but there are some really interesting fences, which I kind of prefer to use as far as gameplay is concerned anyway, because you can just walk right through them. You don't have to waste time walking all the way around them. I also tried to put a pond in the back of this house. It didn't work out, didn't make it into the edit. If you look into the far background of this neighborhood, you can see there's like a swampy sort of area. I brought a couple of those trees. Those are the two tall trees there. The idea being that this house was similar to some of those other houses in the background and that they had grown up around the swamp. I'm not sure how well it worked, but I'm happy enough with it. I'm also not entirely certain if I'm going to carry that theme over into the other houses in this little cul-de-sac. We shall see. I did also add in a few activity skill building items, so you can see the easel there on the front porch. There is a bookshelf inside. There's also a TV for the fun need. I didn't include a laptop on the desk there. I figured that would be something that the person actually living here would be able to purchase for themselves. Oh goodness, you can see all of the little debug pile of items there. Not everything in debug is free, which was something I learned while I was doing this. Very sneaky. I did end up using the little sugar skulls. Those are just too cute. I'd honestly like to make some like make them a lot bigger and use them, maybe as an outside decoration at some point. I feel like there's some interesting things you could do with that. Those little marshmallow dudes, what are those? I do not know what those are from, but they're adorable. Oh, and I loved these murals. I guess I always thought these were from City Living. Apparently they are not. They are base game, and they're only $5. I imagine you could also make a frame around it, like a faux frame somehow. This is one of the little objects you can make if you play with clay, like if your sim plays around with clay. Some of them don't keep their shape. This was one of the ones that did, and I liked how it could go through the wall. So you have, I mean, it's brown. It doesn't really add any color to the wall, but it does add an interesting texture, and you can see it on both sides. This is another item I thought was from City Living. Nope, apparently base game. Very interesting. I'm not sure where this is in the base game. I'm not sure why it's in the base game, but it is. And it's absolutely adorable. Lots of texture on that as well. An example of how this kind of leans more eclectic is that little side table crate box beside the sofa. I think that is maybe not in the Maximalist theme, but the end tables in this game are truly horrific, so that's what I ended up with. I also really like this pattern on this bed. It took me a while to find a bed that I liked, but that one, when I found it, it surprised me. I really like it. Alright, so here is the finished product. These are the trees that I was talking about, these tall ones with theoretically Spanish moss on them. I think the neighborhood I was talking about, yeah, it's kind of over in this direction, kind of over where this bridge is. There are some houses. Yeah, there we go. Kind of in the background. There's like this swampy area, and then there's these kind of older looking houses. That was kind of what I was thinking about when I was doing this area. I think I can edit all 4 of these. So I may do all 4 in that style and have, you know, we have the nicer ones out here, but this one cul-de-sac is kind of a artifact from an older time. But as for this particular house, as you can see, relied heavily on a lot of debug. Particularly, I love these little trees, little topiary trees. Oh my goodness, incredible, love. I'm not sure that I was really going for quite as run down as it ended up being, but yeah, I had a lot of fun adding all of the different debug items. This little metal arch is like rusting in the background, and there's nothing else out there. Very interesting, these 2 mismatched benches in the front. Yes, had a bunch of fun with terrain paint as well. Used a couple of different styles. Honestly, I don't think that any of the landscaping was in build by. I think all of it was part of debug, up to and including this fire hydrant and these poles and like I said, these little trees over here. As for the house itself, we've got this little porch area. Again, tried to have a few activity, skill building type items. So we've got a messy easel up here in the front, so you could paint your, I don't know, neighbor's front house, or maybe the fairy tree over there. That's also a debug item, by the way. I could have had that in my backyard. I held myself back. You're welcome. Alright, so here in the front room, most of this stayed the same from the last time. A couple of tiny additions here and there. Oh, this was one of my favorite finds. Look at her! She's not actually that size. I'm not sure what she is, if she's a toy of some kind. I'm not entirely certain. She seemed to match this little wall decoration over here. Again, I guess I thought these were from City Living, so I'm not entirely sure where they come from. It might be from the Day of the Dead celebration, and they've just the same place that the sugar skulls came. I also love this little lamp. It comes in so many cute colors, and try to ignore how incredibly depressing these curtains are. Oh my goodness. Like, you can tell that they tried to put some texture on them, but they're just so thin. Oh, bless their little hearts. Okay. I did also end up changing the doors out on the inside for, I think they were a comparable price, but they looked better than those plain ugly white doors. The kitchen didn't change very much. I added a couple of bits of clutter. Honestly, I did not feel like cluttering this up a whole lot. That isn't something that I tend to do in my builds. This is an area that you're never actually going to use, so I didn't mind adding some random bits and bobs up there, but for the counter spaces, it's always annoying to get into a new build and try to use the counters and then discover that you can't cook, so I just left all of those blank. I did love this. There's another one as well, another kind of neon sign that was in a circle. I actually just recently downloaded some similar looking CC, which, you know, again, it's just another example of something that I didn't realize was in the game. All right, and then over in the bathroom, really all that I ended up adding in here after the fact was a little bit of clutter on top of this. This is actually, I don't know what this ring is. I guess perhaps it's the object that they use when they propose. It is a full ring, you just can't see the whole thing from here. But anyway, I just made it bigger and made it into kind of a decoration. It's an interesting little piece. I liked it. There were also some of these little wall decals. I wish they came in different colors. They did not. I quite like it for the bathroom. Very graphic, very interesting. Although, again, I wish I could make it yellow. That would just be great. I did go back in over here and give myself a cheaper sink and a cheaper mirror. I think this is actually an item of food that kind of goes with those marshmallows that I left in the kitchen. And then a little rubber ducky. Oh, and then I also added a little debug plunger. How cute! And then last but not least, there's the bedroom. I tried to do so many different things with this room. I spent way too much time on it, but this is the end result. This blank wall was just really bothering me. I did end up finding this really cool ceiling fan. I don't use ceiling fans very often in The Sims just because when you're playing they get in the way. They're kind of annoying, but I loved the look of this one. It looks almost Art Deco. Really went with the more heavy yellow theme in this room, where the rest of the room or the rest of the house was more blue. Also added some plants. Figured this was a pretty planty house. These are debug as well. And then the other side of this interesting little sculpture, I did try to put some little items on these little ledges. It didn't really work very well. I think if this was like maybe a different color, it could have worked. As it was, I think it just looks better on its own. And then a little mirror. So you do actually end up having 2 mirrors in this house that you can use for skill building, and a little wardrobe. And you can look out of your bedroom onto your really overgrown backyard. I didn't realize how much those were blocking the window. Oops. Listen, they're fine. I'm not moving them. They look fine from the outside. And everything is fully playable. Obviously things like this, since they're debug, you can't use them. But I feel like that's kind of the case with a lot of base game builds. You end up having so much debug that it's kind of hard to tell what you can do and what you can't. But you do have the easel out front, the little bookshelf in here, a space that you can put a cheap laptop, which you actually have enough money to get one, I believe. Oh, I forgot about this light. Yeah, I guess I haven't been coming out quite enough to see the interesting light. This is like a lime green light, like one of those little paper lantern things. And then this one, look at the colors in it. It doesn't precisely match this room, but oh my goodness, such a fun little ceiling lamp. Also, excuse you. Let's get you back where you were supposed to be. There you go. And all in all, this house costs $18,867. Now, something I did find a little annoying, I did put this up on the gallery, but it has it marked as having custom content. I'm not entirely certain why. If you happen to know, that would be great information to have. Nothing that I put in here was custom content. I'm not sure if maybe, I know that sometimes when you put in pictures of your family, it can class that. Even though they are created within the game, it can class that as custom content. I'm not sure if maybe these kinds of things are the same. The little sculptures that you can make, since they aren't a pre-made item, I guess you might say. There's something that a sim can create, a la pictures. I'm really not sure. I haven't really tested it out, but yeah, it is classed as having custom content in it. It does not So yeah, that is my first build for this Maximalist save file. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you would have done differently. Let me know if you've tried this before. I would love to see other takes on this. Obviously, Maximalism is like any other decorating style. You can do it a bunch of different ways. Personally, I prefer leaning heavily into the texture and different colors and patterns side of it. But I'd love to see what other people would do with the same concept. Like, subscribe, and all of the things, and I'll see you next time.